Some motorcycles look sharp, sound tough, and wear big names, but ride like a bad decision waiting to happen. In this countdown, we're exposing 12 Japanese bikes that just don't deliver in 2025. Overpriced, underpowered, or flat-out pointless, these are the bikes smart riders stay far away from. Number 12. Honda CB300R. There is no shortage of beginner-friendly motorcycles on the market, but this one continues to struggle to justify its price in today's lineup. Despite being marketed as a premium entry-level naked bike, it delivers performance that's no longer competitive in 2025. For riders seeking value, power, and modern technology in a compact package, this bike quickly fades from consideration. It comes equipped with a 286 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine that makes 31 horsepower and 20 pound-feet of torque. While that may have been acceptable several years ago, the competition has moved forward. It falls behind both the Yamaha MT-03 and the Kawasaki Ninja 400 in both power and rideability. At a wet weight of 327 pounds, the bike is light and maneuverable, which is great for new riders, but it also means less stability at highway speeds. The suspension consists of a Showa 41mm separate function, big piston fork up front, and a single Pro-Link shock at the rear. Braking is handled by a single 296mm front disc with a Nissan caliper and a 220mm rear disc. The biggest issue lies in what's missing. There's no full-color TFT display, no advanced rider aids, and no improvements in the 2024 refresh beyond color options. Yet it carries a price tag of $5,149, placing it dangerously close to bikes that offer dual-cylinder power, higher top-end performance, and more long-term versatility. While it may appeal to brand-loyal riders or fans of minimal design, most others will feel shortchanged by what they get for the money. From underpowered to overstyled, the next bike proves that retro does not always mean respectable. We pulled all the specs, real rider data, and dealership trends so you didn't have to. That's gotta be worth a subscribe, right? Come on, we earned it. Number 11. Kawasaki Z 900R SSE. Few bikes grab attention like this one. It's got the looks, the paint, the vintage tank shape, and the gold-finished components that scream 70s cool. But beneath that carefully sculpted exterior is a motorcycle that struggles to justify its steep price tag. At a sticker price of $14,000, it offers almost no real improvement over its base model counterpart, which retails for $3,000 less. It is powered by a 948 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine that puts out 125 horsepower and 75 pound-feet of torque. The chassis remains unchanged from the standard Z900, but this version adds an Öhlins S46 rear shock and gold-colored upside-down forks. Front braking is handled by dual Brembo M, and the rear gets a single disc. Wet weight sits at 471 pounds. The seat height comes in at 32.3 inches, and it rides on 17-inch aluminum wheels, fitted with Dunlop GPR 300 tires. Unfortunately, there's still no quick shifter, no cruise control, and no cornering ABS. The display remains a hybrid analog and LCD setup, which feels outdated for a bike with this price point. This model banks heavily on nostalgia, but nostalgia only goes so far when riders expect modern performance. You are essentially paying $3,000 more for cosmetic details like paintwork and a branded seat. In a field where you could also consider a Yamaha MT-10, Suzuki GSX S1000, or a Triumph Speed Twin 1200, this Kawasaki becomes hard to defend beyond its looks. If the Z900 SE is a case of style over value, this next one is tech overkill nobody asked for. Before we dig into that, don't ride out unprepared. We picked our favorite gear so you don't have to. Check the description for the essentials every smart rider keeps close. Number 10. Suzuki GSX 8S. There are motorcycles built with a clear mission, then there are ones like this, machines that try to fit into every category at once and end up not excelling in any. That's where this one lands. Introduced to replace the aging SV 650 and GSX S 750, it came with new styling, a fresh parallel twin engine, and a promise to modernize Suzuki's middleweight lineup. But after some miles in the saddle, it becomes obvious. This is a motorcycle with no real identity. Power comes from a 776 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, delivering 83 horsepower and 57 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are competitive on paper, but the power delivery feels bland and uninspired. It lacks the punch and character of a true naked sport bike. The GSX 8S weighs in at 468 pounds wet, making it noticeably heavier than rivals. Braking is handled by dual Nissan axial-mounted calipers in the front and a single-piston rear caliper, while suspension duties fall to KYB upside-down front forks and a preload adjustable monoshock in the rear. It rolls on 17-inch cast aluminum wheels with Dunlop Road Sport 2 tires and a 31.9-inch seat height. The electronics package is bare bones for the price. Riders get a 5-inch TFT display, basic ride modes, and adjustable traction control. But there's no cornering ABS, no 6-axis IMU, and no quick shifter as standard. Priced at $8,999, it's dangerously close to the Yamaha MT-09, which offers more power, better suspension, and a complete electronics suite. Even the Honda CB750 Hornet brings more personality at a lower cost. This one feels like it was designed by committee, and unfortunately it rides like it too. Some bikes try to please everyone and end up pleasing no one, but this next one fails by copying itself. Number 9. Yamaha Tracer 9 GT Plus. Touring motorcycles are supposed to make long-distance riding feel effortless, but sometimes adding too much technology just makes things worse. That's the dilemma here. Loaded with every possible gadget, from radar-assisted adaptive cruise control to a high-tech dashboard, it gives the impression of innovation. But when riders actually experience it, they're met with a machine that's overcomplicated, overly heavy, and surprisingly disconnected from the road. Powering this model is the same beloved CP3 engine used in the MT-09, a liquid-cooled 3-cylinder power plant producing 117 horsepower and 69 pound-feet of torque from 889 cubic centimeters. It's quick, flexible, and torquey. But that familiar engine is unchanged while everything around it has been overbuilt. The Tracer 9 GT Plus tips the scales at 494 pounds wet. Braking is handled by radial-mounted 4-piston calipers up front and a single disc in the rear. Suspension comes from KYB with semi-active electronic control that adapts to road conditions in real time. It features 17-inch cast wheels, a 32.9-inch seat height, and integrated hard panniers. Electronics include a 7-inch TFT display, ride-by-wire throttle, 6 ride modes, cornering ABS, traction control, slide control, and a full suite of rider aids tied to a 6-axis IMU. It even includes a radar-based adaptive cruise system, something more common on premium European touring bikes. The problem? All this tech drives the price to $16,500, while the added complexity results in a steeper learning curve, reliability concerns, and awkward menu systems that frustrate more than they help. It tries to be Yamaha's answer to BMW's GS line or Ducati's Multistrada, but instead it feels like a tech demo on 2 wheels. From overbuilt to overglorified, let's check out a sport bike that should have been left in the concept phase. Number 8. Kawasaki Ninja Z X4RR. There is no denying that the Kawasaki Ninja Z X4RR has created a buzz among spec sheet enthusiasts. A 4-cylinder 299 cubic centimeter engine in a fully faired supersport platform sounds thrilling on paper. And in many ways, it is. But once you leave the dyno room and actually ride it on the street, the excitement wears off fast. This is a motorcycle built around high revving potential, but that design sacrifices real-world usability for the average rider. Power output stands at 76 horsepower and 37 pound-feet of torque, figures that sound impressive until you realize you have to rev the engine beyond 13,000 revolutions per minute just to reach the power band. Below that, the performance feels sluggish and flat. For daily riders navigating city streets or tight corners, that means constant shifting, buzzy feedback, and little reward until you're already riding near redline. Weighing in at 413 pounds wet, the bike feels top-heavy and twitchy at low speeds. Braking is handled by dual front discs with radial-mounted monoblock calipers, while Showa suspension components provide solid control, but they're tuned more for the track than urban riding. The 17-inch wheels are wrapped in Dunlop GPR 300 tires, and the electronics include a TFT dash, quick shifter, and 3 ride modes. With a starting price of $9,699, the Ninja ZX4RR lands dangerously close to more versatile middleweights with larger engines and better torquey curves. For the money, you could step into a Yamaha MT-07, Suzuki GSX 8S, or even a used Ninja 650 and get more accessible power, lower maintenance costs, and a friendlier ride. In the real world, this bike is more of a niche than a need. The ZX4RR might win dyno charts, but it'll lose your patience. Meanwhile, our next bike might be the laziest update of the year. Number 7. Honda CBR 600RR. Some motorcycles age gracefully. Others get stuck in time. This one falls into the second category. It was once the crown jewel of the 600 class, but in 2025 it's a museum piece being sold at premium prices. Riders looking for modern features, refined performance, and fresh engineering will find very little to celebrate here. The engine is a 600 cubic centimeter inline 4 that produces 121 horsepower and 45 pound-feet of torque. That's still a respectable figure, but it hasn't changed meaningfully in over a decade. The motorcycle weighs 435 pounds wet and still runs a dual-disc front brake setup with Takiko calipers and a single-disc rear brake. The suspension setup includes Showa big piston forks and a Pro-Link rear shock, which offer decent adjustability but lack the electronic feedback and ride adaptation found on rivals like the Yamaha R6 or the ZX6R. A small TFT screen replaces the older LCD, but it's a minor upgrade that doesn't make up for the missing features. No cornering ABS, no quick shifter, and no real rider aids. What stings most is the price. At $12,199, it costs as much as some leader bikes and nearly as much as the far more advanced ZX6R KRT edition. And yet Honda continues to roll it out without introducing meaningful updates. For street riders, the ergonomics are harsh. For track riders, the electronics are absent. It sits awkwardly between nostalgia and obsolescence, asking modern dollars for yesterday's performance. If the CBR is stuck in the past, this next bike is stuck in traffic, literally. Number 6. Honda CB1000 Hornet. This one was supposed to shake up the street fighter segment, but instead it quietly slides into the background with little to offer. The Honda CB1000 Hornet is the big brother to the new 750 Hornet and was hyped as a lightweight, high-performance naked bike for 2025. In reality, it feels like a part-spin special trying to ride the wave of Honda's own reputation and falling flat. Powering the Hornet is the 755 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine that makes 92 horsepower and 55 pound-feet of torque. That may sound decent, but in the real world it's just not enough to compete with sharper, more exciting rivals like the Yamaha MT-09 or the Suzuki GSX 8S. For a bike with Hornet in its name, it stings like a scooter. The throttle response is soft, the torque delivery is late, and there's no thrilling top-end surge. For experienced riders looking for power and edge, this bike comes off as muted. It features an inverted fork in the front and a monoshock in the rear, both with adjustable preload, but the suspension setup feels vague at higher speeds. Braking is handled by twin front discs with 4 piston calipers and a single disc in the rear, which do a fine job, but nothing that stands out. It weighs in at 467 pounds, and that bulk is noticeable when trying to throw it through corners. With a price tag of $9,399, the CB1000 Hornet just doesn't give riders enough for their money. No cruise control, no inertial measurement unit, no character, just a name and a fairing. Forget the buzz. Let's move on to a cruiser that forgot how to cruise. Number 5. Suzuki Boulevard M109R Boss. Oversized, under-refined, and painfully outdated, this so-called muscle cruiser tries to make a statement with sheer size, but ends up delivering a riding experience that feels more like a punishment. Despite its aggressive styling and low-slung stance, this machine feels like a leftover from the early 2000s power cruiser wars, never updated to meet modern expectations. Power comes from a 1783 cubic centimeter V-twin that delivers 128 horsepower and 118 pound-feet of torque. On paper, that sounds like brute force, but on the road it translates into a clunky, awkward ride. At low speeds, the throttle is jerky and unpredictable, and at high speeds, the handling is heavy and disconnected. With a curb weight of over 765 pounds, this bike feels like it was built more for parking lot admiration than actual riding. The front suspension is a 43mm inverted fork, while the rear features a hidden single-shock setup. Stylish, but stiff. The dual-disc brakes in the front and a single disc in the rear provide decent stopping power, but nothing exceptional for its size. The seat is low but narrow, and without real padding or wind protection, long-distance riding becomes a test of endurance. Fuel economy hovers in the low 30s, and with a 4.9-gallon fuel tank, expect frequent stops. Add to that the shaft drive's complex maintenance needs and the limited parts availability, and you're looking at a high-cost, low-reward ownership experience. With a current MSRP of $15,499, this bike is asking for top dollar without delivering top-tier performance or comfort. From muscle to misfire, the next bike proves that parallel twins aren't always the solution. Still here? Still not subscribed? After all this performance breakdown and tech insight, buddy, show some love. Hit that button already. Number 4. Kawasaki Eliminator 500 SE. Built with the heart of a ninja and the soul of a scooter, this confused cruiser doesn't know what it wants to be. While marketed as an urban-friendly lightweight cruiser, the overall experience feels mismatched, especially for riders expecting a relaxed, torquey ride. What they get instead is a peaky, underpowered setup that never quite settles into its identity. Underneath its slick design lies a 451 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, borrowed from Kawasaki's Ninja 500. It makes 48 horsepower and 33.4 pound-feet of torque. That's acceptable for a lightweight sport bike, but in a cruiser configuration with forward controls and longer rake geometry, it simply feels out of place. The motor needs to be revved hard to produce any usable torque, which contradicts the laid-back riding style cruisers are known for. The suspension system uses a telescopic fork in the front and dual shocks in the rear, both tuned towards stiffness. That results in a jarring ride over imperfect pavement. Braking is handled by single-disc rotors on both ends with dual-piston calipers. While functional, the braking performance feels minimal when the road gets twisty or traffic gets unpredictable. Aesthetically, the bike borrows from multiple styles, bobber, naked, and street, but blends them without any real cohesion. The seat lacks support, the handlebars are awkwardly positioned, and the small fuel tank limits range. It tips the scales at just under 370 pounds, which makes it light but still not agile enough to impress in corners or confident on the freeway. At a retail price of $6,999, this cruiser doesn't offer enough performance, comfort, or identity to stand out. Eliminator by name, eliminated by logic. Let's now look at a sports tour that barely tours. Number 3. Honda C750X DCT. It promises versatility and ease of use, but delivers the most disconnected ride in its class. The Honda C750X DCT aims to blend scooter practicality with motorcycle performance, but instead lands awkwardly in a no-man's land of underwhelming execution. The dual-clutch transmission, while innovative, still lacks the refinement riders expect in 2025. Shifting feels delayed and robotic, especially at low speeds or under throttle transitions. Powered by a 745 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, it produces 58 horsepower and 50 pound-feet of torque. Those figures might work for commuting, but when paired with the DCT, it feels sluggish and uninspired. There's a flat torque curve and the engine buzzes loudly at highway speeds. Hardly a fun experience. The bike weighs in at 472 pounds and features a steel diamond frame with a telescopic front fork and a rear monoshock. Suspension travel is limited, making rough roads feel even harsher. Braking is handled by a single disc in the front and rear with dual piston calipers. Adequate but not confidence-boosting. Ergonomically, the upright bars, forward pegs, and step-through-like frame give it scooter vibes, but it lacks the maneuverability of an actual scooter and the control of a true motorcycle. Storage under the tank is handy, but the low seat height and odd geometry limit the NC's cornering ability and lean angles. It's a commuter that doesn't excite, a tourer that doesn't tour, and a motorcycle that doesn't deliver a motorcyclist's experience. At a price of $9,399, you're paying more for the transmission gimmick than practical value. If the NC feels like a commuter mistake, the next bike feels like a copy-paste from an old parts bin. Number 2. Suzuki SV 650. There was a time when this bike defined middleweight value. Today, that time has passed. The Suzuki SV 650 still rides on its legendary name, but underneath it remains virtually unchanged from models released over half a decade ago. In 2025, that makes it a dinosaur among dynamic, tech-packed rivals. Under the tank sits a 645 cubic centimeter V-twin engine, producing 75 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. While that's respectable, the engine character now feels dated, and the lack of ride modes or electronic assistance puts the SV far behind its competition. It's still a fun engine at mid-range revs, but the overall package feels outclassed. The bike's steel trellis frame contributes to its 437-pound curb weight. Suspension is handled by a conventional telescopic front fork and a preload adjustable rear monoshock, neither offering much sophistication. The braking system consists of dual front discs with 2 piston calipers and a single disc in the rear. Braking power is average and lacks feel compared to newer setups. There's no TFT display, no traction control, no quick shifter. Not even a slipper clutch. The cockpit still features an analog tachometer with a small digital screen, making it look outdated at a glance. With a seat height of 30.9 inches and relatively narrow handlebars, it's approachable, but lacks the flair or comfort of modern naked bikes. Priced at $7,199, it sits awkwardly close to far more advanced options like the Yamaha MT-07 or the Honda CB650R. What was once a standard setter has now become a back-of-the-pack option, failing to evolve with rider expectations or technology. The SV has overstayed its welcome, but number 1, it never should have been invited to the party. Number 1. Yamaha R7. There's nothing worse than a bike that promises performance but delivers mediocrity. And that's exactly what riders get with the Yamaha R7. It wears the iconic R badge, a mark once reserved for pure track-bred machines like the R1 and the R6. But underneath all that aggressive styling lies a platform that feels more like a commuter than a competitor. It's a case of marketing overtaking engineering, and for anyone expecting razor-sharp thrills, this bike is a letdown. Power comes from a 689 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine shared with the MT-07. It produces 73 horsepower and 67 pound-feet of torque. Those are acceptable numbers for a middleweight street bike, but not what experienced riders expect from something flying the R flag. It lacks top-end surge, the throttle is predictable to the point of boredom, and even with its light frame, it doesn't provide the visceral rush of a true supersport. Weighing 321 pounds dry, the R7 is light but not particularly nimble in high-speed transitions. Braking is handled by dual radial-mounted 4-piston front calipers with 298mm discs and a single 245mm disc at the rear. Suspension consists of a fully adjustable inverted fork up front and a preload adjustable monoshock in the back, but it still doesn't feel track-ready. There's no 6-axis inertial measurement unit, no slide control, and no quick shifter included at this price point. And that price? It starts at $9,299, firmly in competition with more capable motorcycles from rival brands. The R7 wears racing colors but delivers commuter thrills. So before you spend big on looks or badges, ask yourself, does this bike ride like it costs? Let us know in the comments which Japanese motorcycle disappointed you the most, and which one still deserves a second chance.